Steve, we're getting a number of passes here from the TB-30 Epsilons. We talked a little bit about them a minute ago, but you'll notice here as they come by, ladies and gentlemen, obviously it's tandem seating, one behind the other. That allows for a student and an instructor to sit right behind each other. Again, the T-28s are flying above your head, so lots of places to keep your head on a swivel and your eyes moving around, ladies and gentlemen. But the cockpit layout designed into the TB-30 Epsilon was specifically designed to aid in the transition to the Dassault Dornier Alpha Jet. So when this aircraft was built and designed and brought into existence in the French, that is where it had a purpose. It was specifically designed to do that. There you hear some high RPM passes now as they've kind of kicked up the speed, and they're in this low altitude racetrack, if you will, right over runway 36. Straight up from there, straight up above that, you see all of our Yaks and Nanchangs in a wonderful formation there with beautiful smoke on against this blue Wisconsin sky with a few puffs. So ladies and gentlemen, look over your right shoulder if you're facing the runway. You see our T-28 formation coming back from your right to your left. Now they are going to not fly over your head like they have the last few times. They are going to get out over the runway. They're going to be down at low altitude. You heard us talk about those wonderful engines that sound, the beautiful sight of the smoke against this Wisconsin sky. As you see the red stars straight up and above, but here come the T-28s from the right. As the music plays, we're going to listen to this beautiful sound of freedom. This is the North American T-28 Trojan.
Of the Beechcraft.
Yeah, Steve, it was an amazing trainer. We've talked about the T6, which is not flying today, unfortunately, training so many generations, but the T-34 is not far behind it in terms of the number of airmen that have been trained in not just the service to our country, but in other countries as well. And because, like we talked about it being based on the Bonanza, when you think about that wing with the dihedral, you think about the low landing gear that looks just like a Baron and a Bonanza, it's right there. But ladies and gentlemen, look to the left right here. Here comes the T-28s one more time from left to right. So Steve, I noticed that the T-28s have started to pitch up as they make those low passes. They're going to circle around and come around one more time. One little thing, ladies and gentlemen, let you in on a little bit of inside baseball trading, behind the curtains, if you will, of how we do air shows, especially here at Oshkosh. One of the reasons those aircraft, or the main reason those aircraft are pulling up, is they have to get at above 1,000 feet, climbing to 1,000 feet as they turn left and proceed over the crowd to go back around. Well, the reason they're turning where they are is because down by runway 927 to the north, we have full normal operations still happening down there with its own air traffic control tower. So you see these T-28s pitching up here a little bit early, making that left turn, climbing towards 1,000 feet before they go over the crowd. All of that is for our safety, it's for their safety, but it also is really cool, Steve, to see how the airspace works and how the air bosses make it all happen, that behind the curtain.
Absolutely, and we have another formation coming through, is that the Red Stars? The T-34s.
Gentlemen, mass formation today here on Tuesday's edition of AirVenture Airshow 2026. Fans, watch this. You see the Epsilons go around that traffic pattern. Watch now as they are down downwind coming to land. Now the lead ship has got the gear down, rolling into final. He has got the gear down, going to land here on 3-6, followed by ships 2 and 3. But if you look straight up from there, straight up above that, you see all of our Yaks and Nanchangs in wonderful formation there. Beautiful smoke on against the blue Wisconsin sky with puffy clouds and right out in front of them. The T-34s are following them. And look up behind, straight up, ladies and gentlemen, there's the T-28s. Our air bosses out front are doing a phenomenal job today. Mr. Jim Brown, Cosine Cookie, is leading the forward section of our air boss And he has this amazing dance in the sky going for you here today. Here in Oshkosh today.
The T-34 had its very first flight in 1948. It went into service in 1953. About 2,300 or so. With that, and not done over 7
We talked about the T6, which is not flying today, unfortunately. Training strength. Just it's not far behind in terms of the number of airmen that have been training. So did you see that, everybody? You see the different things they use the T-28s roll out here, folks. If you look to your left, you can see the T-30. See, they got the canopies back, letting that fresh air in, cool off a little.
Now I want you to watch, ladies and gentlemen, you see our C-47s gathering up on the runway, and as Steve expertly predicted, they picked up a fifth aircraft. It was parked down to the south of us. So we are going to have a flight of 5 today, and it's going to be something that you're going to want to keep an eye on the entire day. This is a historic, not only each aircraft historic, we'll talk about the specifics of each of these aircraft here in a bit, but the formation together and flying here in Oshkosh is quite an historic event. To have, Steve talked about 11 airframes on the field, but to have them operating, we're bringing history to you, we're keeping it alive. I want you to look at the different liveries as they take off here in just a minute. Look at the paint schemes and that are on there. Look at the all right, here they come, ladies and gentlemen. Specifically, now Steve, I think all of these, the invasion stripes look really nice and pretty, and they're straight. But think about when we put those on these aircraft, ladies and gentlemen, during times of combat in the field, operating from unimproved airfields, specifically in the European theater, grass airfields that were a lot of times were muddy. They didn't have spray guns like we have modern day. They didn't have a ton of masking tape. A lot of these stripes were painted with mops and brooms and dipped in buckets of paint as they come to the right. So look at these liveries as they come. And ladies and gentlemen, I want you to listen. We're going to let all 5 aircraft come by as we play a little music underneath them. Ladies and gentlemen, these are the C-47 Dakotas.
Just ahead of us, damage the first black 16. With one burst of light black, there's another. Our tracer is going across just in front of our nose. I think it's coming from, we are going beside the canal. More pressure coming up now. Just cutting across in front of our door. There's nothing just beside a little windmill near a church. Hanging there very gracefully. They completely relaxed like nothing so much as tacky dolls hanging beneath the green lampshade.
Edward Alborough from CBS Radio News, Operation Warbird, or CNN, 24-hour news channels. That's how we got our information.
Wow, that was spectacular. Just think about the history of Operation Warbird. Now, as our flight continues to circle to the right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to come back by again. Our lead aircraft today is Southern Cross. Now, that is a Douglas C-49J. We talked a little bit about 47s and 49s, but there's a little bit of difference between them, and I think it's really interesting as they circle back. We'll cover this really quickly. The C-49 was a commercial DC-3 airliner drafted into military service by the Army Air Corps. The C-47 was purpose-built from the ground up for combat using the DC-3's frame and starting point. Now, the C-49 retained the airline-style windows and passenger doors, while the 47 featured reinforced doors, glider towing tail, and a large cargo door. So you've got your sharp eye on it. As they come by, look at the tail below the horizontal stab at the back. You can see the difference where the conal or cone-shaped aerodynamic tail is on the 49 versus the 47. Now, most 49s were powered by two 9-cylinder Wright 1820 Cyclone engines. The C-47 featured two of the more powerful 13-cylinder Pratt & Whitney R-1830 twin Wasp engines. So big difference there, and that requires a larger cowling on the C-47 than the deeper, wider engine that it had. The C-47 was heavily modified with double-width cargo door, a strengthened cabin floor for heavy vehicles, and anchor lines for paratrooper deployment. C-49s mostly retained their original passenger or sky sleeper layouts. The 49 primarily served in support, VIP transport, and resupply roles, while the 47 became the primary military workhorse used to drop paratroopers and gliders. Here they are. Oshkosh, it's absolutely appropriate to give them a huge round of applause right there. That is history right in front of you. Think about the forward. Some tooling riders, some loaded in the back. Basics like they bleed airspeed, continuing to fly the aircraft. The wheels are on the ground, but they are still flying that aircraft, ladies and gentlemen, as they come down. You're going to get to see that 4 more times right behind it. Watch these expert aircrew navigate and fly these beautiful historic Warbirds right here. Now see the C-49 here at Southern Cross, the first one. Look at the tail. Look underneath the rudder, and even with the horizontal stab, you can see that where everything comes together and it's kind of pointing in the back. I want you to look next at the second aircraft, which is the C-47, the gray one. And I want you to look at the back. You notice that you have that bearing that for aerodynamics. That was changed in there with some of the reinforced connect points for the tow ropes and the tow lines that we towed gliders when we hauled the gliders into places like Normandy and D-Day and other places like that. So look, you see those tails? And absolutely phenomenal how these aircraft, we described how they were built, how the difference between them, but it's great to see this history flying in front of us here today. We've got 3 more coming for Steve. So ladies and gentlemen, one of the oldest things we've ever made in these things, and you're seeing a great example of that right here. The C-47 that's rolling out on the runway was losing speed and settled down, and so the aircraft behind it was overtaking it. And you see a perfectly safe, absolutely standard operation here. So it's really cool to me, Steve. I can't turn off my old air traffic controller brain at all. And it is so fun to see the execution of those maneuvers that are absolutely the things that keep everything completely safe, and that go-around is just one of those things. That's part of a safe operation.
Absolutely. One of my flight instructors told me that this way it's not going to end up good. So if the approach is not to your liking, there's absolutely nothing wrong with putting the power to it and going around and trying it again. Because every flight is a practice flight.
Yes, it is. And as you can see one more time, the C-47 in front of you with the invasion stripes we talked about earlier on the wing and also on the tail, as it gently settles that tail wheel to the ground. Look at that speed, just perfectly done. Very expert airman on this plane. This is all in honor of our hero and his 50 years here.
That's right.
Hollywood Danny Kusham, the Hall of Famer, who has done it expertly for so many years. We owe everything we do to him. And Danny, thank you for the leadership. Thank you for the example. And everything we do here is a tribute to Danny and his amazing showmanship and leadership as we watch Howard come up on that C-47 as he's hustling his way down into the runway there to go. So Luke, I think you've got something that's going to be just a little bit different up next.